We've had people with this perfect funnel flow built, this fantastic front end upsell that everyone wants, but then they've forgotten to connect the product for the upsell.
It's been such a journey to see how easily people just screw these things up and then never check.
There's an incredible amount of stuff that can go wrong. The speed that a page loads really does make a difference. We like to check before we put everything live and right after we put everything live.
Do you do every variation that the funnel has to offer?
A lot of people think the purchase is the end of a relationship with a customer. It's really just the beginning. Make sure you are your first customer.
You've checked the funnel and everything looks good. Then what do you do?
That's kind of the secret there.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Special Ops Podcast. I'm Emma Rainville, your host, and today we have the all-time famous on this podcast anyway, Richard Parkin with us, my Chief Marketing Officer. He's worked with me for pretty much all of Shockwave's existence. He was hired very in the beginning. He's my longest running employee, and God changed my life. I'm so glad to be sharing him with you today. We're in London. We came to London to do some team building. Richard lives in London. Saka is in Mauritius, Africa. He's in the other room. We are filming with him as well. We all came to London for some team building and some much needed time together. And we decided to randomly pop in and do some podcasts for you. So I wanted to share Richard and some of his brilliance. Today, we're talking about when launching funnels, we tend to obsess over what customers see. But what they don't see is in the background, where things break, lawsuits start, or revenue quality disappears. In this episode, I'm sitting down with my own Richard, Shockwave's Chief of Marketing Officer, and the guy who double checks every switch behind every campaign before it goes live. We'll unpack the overlooked world of funnel infrastructure, policies, payment flows, affiliate setups, legal compliance, and QA protocols that most marketers ignore. Most of them ignore it until it's too late. We aren't talking about just fixing problems. It's about designing launches to work under pressure. If you're scaling a funnel or planning on launching one and you're not thinking like an operator, this conversation will change how you build from here on end. Thank you so much, Richard. I'm so excited, dude. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's the first time I've been on a Shockwave podcast. It's the last stuff I've been on is very different in tone.
Yeah.
I won't get into that. But yeah, glad to be here.
Marketers love launching.
Yeah.
They love launching.
Absolutely.
But they also love skipping all the ops.
Yeah.
And that's when the chargebacks hit, the affiliates drop you, or you have to pay a bunch of make goods, and the funnel dies before ever taking flight. Luckily, we have Richard as our funnel pilot. And so I wanted to talk to you about this today, and I wanted to we've seen some nightmares.
Oh, yeah.
And we've been brought in 2 minutes too late, usually, to stop the issues, but we are able to course correct. Some of the things that we've seen is gateways that aren't connected right, affiliates who are pissed off because they did a big drop and now they want make goods. We've seen just all kinds of stuff. Run through some of the stuff that you've seen and the disasters you've had to deal with.
Sure. I mean, there's an incredible amount of stuff that can go wrong, just to put it as bluntly as possible. We've seen so many cases where people seem to have everything in the right place, but they've put the pieces together but haven't checked how the overall jigsaw puzzle looks, if you want to consider that kind of metaphor. We've had people with this perfect funnel flow built, this fantastic front end upsell that everyone wants, but then they've forgotten to connect the product for the upsell. This happens, and it's not necessarily just forgetting. Sometimes there's just something that doesn't quite work when you go live. We like to check before we put everything live and right after we put everything live. That's kind of the secret there. There's always a lot more that can go wrong than people think, and a lot more than people can ever look for. We'll get into the QA and how we best control for that.
So what I'm hearing is the first thing you do is before you go live, you run through the entire funnel.
Oh, sure.
Do you do every variation that the funnel has to offer?
Generally, it's going to depend on how complex the funnel is. Typically, if you've got a complicated funnel, you're going to want to go for your high priority stuff first, and that will generally give you a good indication of what's actually happening. If you have maybe 3 or 4 different paths, you definitely want to be taking all of those. When you have a more programmatic funnel, a more customized experience for the user, sometimes there's going to be variables that can't be tested. But for standard marketing funnels, you'd always want to be going down every set path you have.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think you and I noticed first when we started doing this No one's testing their funnels with a credit card.
Oh, yeah. Right.
You need an actual credit card, not the test card, an actual credit card. And then you need to go into your bank, make sure your billing descriptor is correct. Then you need to make sure the email are walk me through some of that, because there's so many intricate pieces to a funnel that can break. It isn't just about taking a payment.
Yeah.
It's all the other stuff.
Fundamentally, I mean, like, the experience with a funnel is going to be different on some level once you go live. Like, that's generally you can control for those differences. You can understand what they're going to be, but the only way you're going to be absolutely certain of what's actually happening is to take a look through it. Make sure you are your first customer, because if your first customer is actually paying you, they're going to be pretty annoyed when they see the thing that you could have spotted just by taking your card and going through for 5 minutes. And then obviously you want to be cancelling out those payments. That's a separate question, but
I don't actually cancel out the payments.
For subscriptions and such.
I don't actually cancel out the payments. When I'm testing a funnel, I want to make sure that the triggers happen, particularly on
recurring
payments. So our initial track, whenever we do it, is I'm going to test, and then I also want to see the email sequence that it leads to. If I avoid the payment, I won't end up in that. So for the first time, and then later on, you avoid it before the batch settles, so that you're not buying your own product over and over again once you do that. We've talked about QAing the product just before launch, just after launch, and then how often from there?
Generally, if you're going to be scaling up significantly at any point, like if you've got a big promotional campaign coming up, or you mentioned earlier affiliates doing a big drop for you, you probably want to take a check before that extra traffic hits, because sometimes things break over time.
It just happens.
It's one of those background things.
You get split tests.
Yeah.
When I always like to say QA whenever you do a split test. Whenever you have concluded a split test before you start the next one, and then right after you start the split test.
Yeah. Any kind of big change in what people are going to see, or who's going to be seeing it for the traffic sense.
And then I think something that's missed when you're checking funnels, if you're in Chrome and you've checked the funnel and everything looks good, then what do you do?
You've got to be checking it in at least a couple of different browsers. Chrome is the architecture for most common browsers at this point. Edge and such, I believe that's on a Chromium basis, but Chrome and Firefox is going to give you a solid view for your desktop users, but you absolutely need to be testing for mobile, and that's something I don't think that just about anyone does, really. Typically Safari, I mean, that's going to be a decent chunk of your audience.
Particularly, because...
Yeah, if you've got a more or less high-ticket product, you're going to naturally gravitate toward iPhone users. And Android, most of the time, the Firefox and Chrome builds on that, they're pretty similar to the desktop ones in terms of function, everything like that. But yeah, taking the time to look through on a phone, it goes overlooked. At this point, last time I looked at the overall industry stats, it's about 80% of people are shopping and buying on their phones now, and that just keeps growing somehow. I don't know how it keeps
Don't
getting
you
higher.
only shop on your phone?
Mainly.
I don't ever shop on my computer.
No, I definitely my auction sites and such, artifacts.
Yeah, I probably do 99.9% of our shopping.
Oh, sure.
The only thing I ever buy on the computer is flowers, oddly enough.
Yeah. Well, just to have a little bit more of a expanded view. Are you seeing more of what you're doing?
I think that the reason is because the password to my passport is on my computer, and I don't have to pay for shipping.
Yeah, it's certainly most people at this point, it's primarily phone. I mean, desktop is dwindling year after year, but everyone's still designing on desktop, so everyone's still
So I love that.
testing
Okay,
on
so
desktop.
test on
Any...
Chrome, Firefox, Safari, test mobile, test Android, and test iPhone. And then I want to move a little bit on. So there's a bunch of legal compliance terms, policies, product names, refund logic. I want you to kind of walk through when you are QAing, when you're going through this entire process. What are you looking for? Start from the top and bring me all the way down.
Okay, so first thing I'm taking a look at is how the page loads. So this is something that used to be a lot more common. It's kind of fallen out of practice, but the speed that a page loads really does make a difference to the number of people who convert, and there is a lot that you can do to optimize that. Most platforms at this point, everyone's moving to 4G, 5G networks. They've got fiber internet, everything like that. So people think, oh, I don't need to optimize the page load. I don't look at that. But realistically, you've still got a lot of potential customers who are on slower internets or who have even less of an attention span.
I live in Georgetown, Texas, and I have no attention span. And my internet is incredibly slow. I can't get fiber where I am. If I plug into an article a lot of times what happens, or a recipe, it's moving constantly because things are loading. It pisses me off. I click off, I'm done.
Exactly. And that's going to be the same for funnels. So any kind of slow loading image, any kind of video that's just set to autoplay.
Okay, so page load speeds.
Page load speeds.
Yo, we interrupt this podcast to remind you to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe, dude. Just like and subscribe. This way, when we put out new content, you're going to be the first to know about it. Additionally, if you haven't signed up for our Visionary Vault, why are you slipping? www.specialopspodcast.com. Go sign up for our Visionary Vault. We have tons of courses and checklists and articles written for you so that you can get better at operations in your business. Better operations mean more profit. So go, run, get over there. Back to the podcast.
Then we're taking a look at the actual structure itself. We want to make sure that's as you expect it, particularly on mobile, because obviously if this is the first time you're seeing it on an actual mobile, there might be some surprises. If those are bad surprises, you want to get those cleaned out pretty much immediately. Generally after that, I'm taking a look at how we check out. And that's maybe not the traditional approach, but I do like to see what the journey into checkout is. So like if we have a pop-up with the checkout box, for instance, how's that looking? Is that running fast? Is that sometimes on mobile, for instance, maybe the text we've added in that pop-up, it's a little too big. We want to be checking all that. So we want to make sure that there's a smooth, unimpeded path straight through to checkout. And then we start taking a look at the legal side. So typically, I think every case right down the bottom, you should be seeing.
And when he says legal side, just to be very clear, we generally work with people who get the funnel signed off. Oh, yeah. We work with Ryan Poteet and Damon Wright of Gordon Reese a lot. And Ryan actually co-hosts a segment of this podcast called Marketing on Trial with me. But generally speaking, what happens is they sign off on the legal side of the copy. What Richard's talking about is the mechanics now. I just want to make sure that we're clear. So they go through and they make sure that claims aren't being made that shouldn't be made and whatnot. And then we get it, and then Richard's going through the legal side of making sure.
Sure. For instance, right at the bottom, you need to have basically any policies. A lot of this seems like checking, but
let's specific. Policies doesn't mean a lot. So what policies?
Specifically, what we want to see is your terms and conditions that basically governs how you relate to your customer. The specifics of that are going to depend on
right, but they all have the same thing. So you got to have a refund
policy. You need to have a contact address for any legal issues, any kind of disputes like that. You need to be telling the customer basically when they sign up, what they're going to be getting from you, how you're going to be connecting to them. And if you're running, for instance, an event funnel or anything like that, you need to tell them a little bit about, say you're going to be filming the event or you're recording a Zoom webinar, for instance.
It's just a contract with how you're delivering your product and then how they're giving you disputes, basically. So you want to, and how refunds work. And so that's the terms and conditions. Yep. And then there's
the privacy policy, which is how we're going to use your data. Especially if you're running affiliate traffic, you need to have
or SMS, right?
Yeah, SMS is different. That's more in the overall terms.
Okay.
And it typically you'll need some wording on the checkout itself if you're going to be sending marketing.
Okay, so privacy policy is for what you're doing with their...
Yeah. So if you're going to be, for instance, selling it off to an affiliate or sending them affiliate traffic, you want to be disclosing that so that they can't come back and just say, oh, you've taken my data and done this with it without my consent.
Got it. And so what else goes on the bottom of that page?
Sure. So typically you want your copyright information just to give you that little bit of a protection edge. In a few cases, you'll want to have a refund policy there. That really depends on how your funnel is structured. In a lot of cases,
does it go in the terms and conditions?
It depends. In some cases, we want to make the refund policy part of the page itself. Like a couple of our clients, for instance, they have a pretty generous sounding refund policy, so they get it right up in the forefront. Mm-hmm. Like you'll see a lot of people with trust badges for 120 days, no questions asked refunds, everything like that. But you want to make sure that the customer knows how they claim a refund, even if the answer is, oh no, you've brought this custom-made thing, we don't have a refund policy. You want to be making that very clear.
So once you get through that, what's next?
Sure. So that's most of what we want to cover for the front page. Then we start taking a look at everything that comes after checkout. So you put your card through, you make sure that there's no issues there. And if there are issues, obviously that's the time to be fixing it. And then you start taking a look at the upsell flow, your everything that comes after the confirmation. So typically when we set up funnels, we have Facebook tracking event kicking in right after the purchase, just to tell Facebook or Google or whoever else we're using to advertise, hey, we've just made a sale. So you want to be checking that that's working. We have quite a few different tools that we use to do that in browser. The Meta Pixel Helper, that kind of thing. Google has a similar thing, but it's basically just to check, are we passing the data back to the platform that we're advertising from so that the platform can figure out
Right.
you've made us up.
Right.
So that's just a background stuff there. Then we're taking a look at the page. Again, we're looking at the content, again, from a load perspective, a quality perspective, and then starting to go for a checkout perspective. Generally, I don't believe we need to include different policies after checkout. Sometimes you want to just have those terms and conditions, a privacy policy, everything like that.
And it should be on every page.
It should
There's
be-
no
it should-
reason
it
not
should
to
be
have them
on
on
every-
a page.
There's no reason to have new stuff, but you should generally just keep the same footer right down the bottom there, so everyone has a convenient place for it. But we're taking a look through, making sure that the funnel is actually working. Can we check out with the product? Because sometimes, a couple of systems we work with, sometimes there's just something that fails. We get, it loses some kind of cookie connection, and we just have to
Right.
clone the page and restart again. Still haven't figured out what's causing that, but we're noticing it every time because we're doing this QA. So here's where it really gets dependent on how your funnel is structured. So if you have a...
Let's just give like bullet points.
Okay. Yeah, for
because
sure.
we get a little surprise for them at the end,
We
right?
do have a surprise, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so you, as I said earlier, you really want to be going through every set path that you have. If you have an upsell and a downsell or two upsells, anything like that, you want to make sure you see every possible page that your customer could be seeing. And again, checking them for load speed, checking them for marketing quality, checking to make sure everything is as you expected. Because really the point of QA is to find stuff that you didn't expect to happen.
So we do a thing at Shockwave where it's like an assessment into your business. And one of the things that Richard goes and does is he QAs. These are potential clients for Shockwave. He'll go and QA their funnels. The amount of times that you found that the dollar amounts on the page and what was charged was different. The name of the product was different on the upsell to the product because they had cloned it so many times.
Oh, sure.
The amount of mistakes that you found are just insane to me. It's been such a journey to see how easily people just screw these things up and then never check.
Yeah, and just to cut in for a second there, it's not just about them being mistakes, because these are things that actually have a very real tangible cost. Like, the policies, as you can probably tell, they're the least dynamic, least exciting part of it, but it's the part that people can very easily snatch upon. If your funnel is at a significant size, you're probably going to be targeted by people who are looking for missing policies because they know how to make quite a bit of money from that. Again,
what Richard is talking about there is, because policies is such a blanketed thing and
exactly.
most people don't even understand they're supposed to have it. What Richard is talking about there is there's a lot of people actually out there. We have a massive suppression list.
We've got a list.
By the way, if anybody wants a suppression list, email ops@shockwavesolutionsllc.com. We have known litigators list. And so I'm happy to share that with you so that you just go ahead and suppress them from your list now. But what he's talking about, they'll go and they'll sign up for your products knowing that you didn't disclose something correctly or that they'll look for these small mistakes and then they'll come after you and you'll get an email that looks like this. We're going to sue you for $10,000 per occurrence. You have 25 occurrences, or you can send me $10,000 and this goes away. Yeah. The amount of people that pay those, by the way, blow my mind. Anyway, that's what he's talking about. So go ahead, Richard.
Yeah. No, again, that's the policy side of it. But if your products aren't working, if you're giving your customer a bad experience, you are going to get more refunds. You're going to get more dissatisfied customers right from the beginning.
So in your QA, to keep it back to the QA process,
sorry.
so in your QA process, you want to make sure that everything that you've promised throughout that funnel is actually delivered as well.
Absolutely. Just getting through to the final part of it, you have some kind of autoresponders running in the background of your funnel. So you want to be making sure that, again, you're seeing all those paths. Like, you want to be seeing your abandoned cart sequence. You want to make sure that's actually correctly starting, that's correctly stopping when you purchase a product. You want to see your welcome sequence. You want to make sure that you're actually getting, for instance, any digital deliverables, anything like that. A lot of people think the purchase is the end of a relationship with a customer. It's really just the beginning. It's closer to the beginning than at the end. Once you have a purchase, the reason that upsells work is that somebody is much more likely to purchase again from you right after they have made that decision to trust you. That also means that they are a lot more able to make the decision not to trust you. And, for instance, to decide, okay, I don't trust these people, I want my money back immediately. You'll see that quite a few times. If you're getting refund requests within an hour of purchase, there's probably something wrong with the funnel that you haven't seen. It's an interesting psychological little state there. The point of QA is to make sure that you are seeing all these things before they happen and avoiding any damage to your business because of them.
You've walked through a lot of the major components, but there's so many nuances. So as we do at Special Ops, Richard created a QA checklist that actually puts all those nuances in there for you that we probably didn't have time, or we definitely didn't have time to run through, because there's so many. If you're doing events, they're different from physical products, and then physical products are different from info products. Info products are different from services. Services are different from SaaS. There's just so many. Yeah. And so we'll actually have those little paths for you on how to do QA. The last thing I'll say on QAing funnel is the best person on your team to QA the funnel regularly. And this can be done with a test card. I'm not talking about what Richard's talking about, where you have someone who's higher level go through and test everything as far as the billing descriptors and the emails. But have your customer service team go through with a test card and test your entire funnel about weekly. Things break so easily, middleware, and it's beyond your control, right? Well, if I didn't touch anything, why did it break? There was one time we were on a CRM, one of the largest CRMs that was out there, and they did a big update to their CRM, and they dated the update to be December 31st, 2022. Yeah. And so at midnight on January 1st, which, by the way, New Year's Eve is the biggest day for weight loss. You'll do more on that one night than you did the 3 months prior. Their entire funnels, everybody's funnels that were on that CRM went down. Our team knew at 12:02, we actually notified the CRM that they were down. So having your customer service team, particularly at pivotal moments, go in and make sure that they're testing, because it's not always in your control. It's not always because you touched it. It could be your middleware. We've had that happen. It could be CRM has downtime. It could be a gazillion factors coming in. And when your business is online, it's 24/7. There's 24/7 possibilities that things can go wrong. So if you haven't done these types of checks with your funnels, go right now. Grab the template at www.specialopspodcast.com. Grab Richard's QA checklist and go do it right now. What are you waiting for? Give it to a high-level team member that can do it. Get it done. There's no reason for you not to do it now that you know. So knowledge is power. If you enjoyed this podcast, like and subscribe so that you are always updated when we drop new content. Thank you so much, Richard, for coming. It's dude, like, come on.
6 years
here. You've been 6 years by my side, dude. So thank you all.